Hello, everyone. Welcome to pwponderings.com. Thanks for listening. My name is Chris Gitti. I'm, of course, the web admin, and we have a very special guest on the line right now. He is literally an unbreakable man. He is the #1 contender to the Ring of Honor World title. He is Michael Elgin. Michael, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I am doing great. I'm pretty excited. Ring of Honor, they are returning to, I guess what you would say, traditional pay-per-view this Sunday. That's something, obviously, we should just start off right at the back there. Ring of Honor returning to pay-per-view. I mean, I'm assuming you were watching Ring of Honor back in the day like I was, especially during the times when they had those taped pay-per-views. But what does it mean to you, Ring of Honor, pretty much not only debuting in this live format, but also basically having you headline it?
You know, words can't really describe how it feels to be in that position. I mean, yeah, there's wrestling pay-per-views, and there's been wrestling pay-per-views for many years, but it's the company's very first live pay-per-view. How many people can say that they were the main attraction for the very first pay-per-view a wrestling company held? Not many. So it's a huge spot and a huge opportunity to put more eyes on the product. And if we're represented as the main event, then we have to perform at a level like nobody else can, or people that are new to Ring of Honor aren't going to see us as on the level in the wrestling world. So we definitely got to bring our game up to a level we've never had it at before, so that people look at Ring of Honor as it should be looked at, and that's the best wrestling on the planet.
There's been many transitions. There was a time when they went on HDNet, and then, of course, SBG, their syndicate on their TV. That's actually been kind of a big topic right now, just amount of fans and how many there are in, not just the United States, but around the world when it comes to being able to support professional wrestling. Have you, just in the time that you've been on, the syndicated television for SBG, have you seen more and more fans kind of, I guess recognition, going through the airport? I'm not trying to say any particular promotion, but we know that there's a couple out there where a few of the wrestlers would say, you know what, I've been wrestling for them for years and on TV, but I don't seem to get recognized anymore. How has your experience been working on Ring of Honor, going from, I've been a fan since 2002. I've literally seen them grow from places like the Murphy Rec Center, and now they are on national TV. Yes, it's syndicated, but still, it's a much bigger platform. How has that changed just, for yourself?
First off, I want to say I've actually been watching Ring of Honor since 2002 as well. One of my biggest goals when I started wrestling was to be part of Ring of Honor, and I've covered that recently. So I've also seen it grow, and now being a part of it and being on TV, like you're saying, it's changed a big deal. Obviously, as you said, we are syndicated, so we're not in every market, but the markets we are in, we get recognized. Like, for instance, I live outside of St. Louis now, and there's people at my gym all the time saying, hey, I just saw you on TV. I saw this, I saw that. I remember right before ACH had signed with Ring of Honor, we were driving back from a show in Cleveland, and we stopped at a rest stop, and the server at Arby's recognized me. We ended up getting free food. So it's definitely, you get recognized more being on TV, even though it's syndicated. There's people in these markets paying attention that love Ring of Honor and are new fans, and people that get to see us and they recognize us. So it's awesome when we go into places, because I don't know how many times I've been in the airport as well, and people are yelling out our names and stuff. So I think that the markets they're in are really strong, and I think that it's going to continue to grow as long as the wrestlers continue to perform the way we are.
And that's pretty much how it's always been. Ring of Honor is just always known for that in-ring product, and particularly I think that was really important this year. Obviously there were rumors floating around that some big news was coming. A lot of people were predicting maybe it was a return to pay-per-view, maybe it was a return to live pay-per-view. And I think everyone has covered, kind of the hiccups here and there, but it's technology, right? There's nothing you can really do about it. You just have to accept it and try to push forward. But Ring of Honor has really been putting, I think, their best foot forward, particularly this year. And, when we talk a little bit about that in terms of, you've got to live some dreams, man. You got to work with some talent from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and just the amount of coverage I think that has brought Ring of Honor alone was a big deal. Tell us a little bit about that, because I was really excited, especially for you. Once that news was announced, and you just flat out saying, "Hey, I want Okada. I want the best wrestlers in the world," and I think that says a lot, not just about you, but about the promotions that you work for, being able to put those types of cards together. tell us a little bit. How did that make you feel when you knew that big things like this, like the New Japan, I guess co-promoted events, and then of course going back to pay-per-view. What has that done for you in terms of just for you, your family, but also yourself. You as a I don't want to say character, but you know what I mean. As a wrestler, this is obviously a big step for your career.
Yeah, not only is it a big step, I think that in wrestling you never stop learning. And the best learning experiences you're going to have is in the ring with somebody new. So always, wrestling a new opponent, whether it be anybody, name value or from a different country or anywhere, you have a lesson to learn. And there's even more lessons to learn when you're wrestling the top guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling because there's language barrier. And I mean, some would say 2012, 2013, New Japan was the best wrestling promotion in the world at that time. And even this year, they've been doing really good. So being in a position like that has helped me progress as a wrestler, a performer, and really, I think it's been a step forward in the right direction of me doing everything I want to do in pro wrestling. I've made it very clear that two goals I had starting out wrestling was to be Ring of Honor World Champion and to perform in Japan, and definitely most specifically for New Japan. And I also know because a good friend of mine who is not a wrestler, he's a fan that I grew up with, told me that apparently New Japan did not like me, which I would like to say is not the case. I'm going to leave it at that, but any reports that people might have seen about New Japan not liking me and that's why I was cranky or whatever is not the case whatsoever. But as you're saying, it's just a huge step forward for the company, and not only for me personally. I think for everybody who signed with Ring of Honor when Sinclair came in, maybe they were talking a little bit too big, too fast, but all those things that they're saying are now coming true. So they really put the time and effort into presenting Ring of Honor to a new audience, to a bigger audience, and making things that they wanted to happen from the start happen. So my hat's off to Sinclair Broadcasting Group because they've really come on board, and I think that fans now realize that they truly have come on board because you got to think they brought over how many guys from New Japan, and that's not a little bit of money they're pushing towards the shows. That's a lot of money they're putting into the company, and I think that it's definitely paid off, and we're on the rise, and I think that opened up even more eyes bringing us to this live pay-per-view coming up Sunday. I think people are truly paying attention to Ring of Honor on another level.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's been a little bit of a criticism for SBG. People kind of wondering, well, where's the money? And obviously they're not a public traded company, but we know that, or actually they are. In terms of we know roughly their finances. We don't know the finances that they push into Ring of Honor, but clearly bringing the talents from New Japan, that's not cheap. And of course, guys like Court Bauer, people like that have represented that. This being on pay-per-view, SBG wants to put their best foot forward, so we might see some new productions, some new stuff like that. I'm sure some of the talents in the locker room, you guys have been all talking about it. Have you seen any of it? I'm not asking you to describe it, but have you seen anything new that they're bringing in for this pay-per-view in terms of a production or stage or lighting?
I really haven't. I know I've been very vocal about things I think they should do, but that's just the type of person I am. If I'm doing something, I'm doing something 100%. And this is kind of cliche because I know that it's been said by many people in wrestling, but if I'm part of Ring of Honor, then that's my team, and I want my team to be represented in the best way possible. That's with the talent, with the production, with everything. So if I see something that I think we should do, I often suggest it, and they've been really good at kind of listening to us when we suggest things. So I think that you're going to see a little bit of a difference with the pay-per-view for sure and moving forward.
Definitely. I mean, of course, we're going to talk all about the pay-per-view, some of the details where everyone can check that out. If you go to ROHWrestling.com right now, they've actually provided a list of everyone that can provide it, and it, of course, is available on Ustream.tv. For everyone that was wondering, it is going to be available on iPay-per-view, and I'm looking at the splash page for that right now. It's $24.95. I mean, that's a great price. I'm assuming possibly in some markets the HD feed, hey, it's $5-10 more. But to me, that's worth it. But if you go to the Ustream, it's $24.95. I think that's a great price, and I definitely think you're getting the quality product for your money. And I think that's kind of been an important aspect for Ring of Honor is that they're not just trying to put out a product and saying, hey, you know what, we know you're going to pay for it. We're going to give it to you. And they're not resting on their laurels of their brand name. Let's be honest, Ring of Honor, the number one independent pro wrestling brand out there. I know some people try to say, oh, it's not independent pro wrestling anymore, but whatever. It is what it is. It's still the top in my perspective. And when it comes to Elgin, I guess how does that affect you when I'm sure the fans probably when they come to you asking either for autographs or whatever, or just on the street and they tell you, yeah, you know what, buying that pay per view that was worth the money, and then seeing matches like you had against Styles and Okada, that match alone was worth the price of the pay per view. I'm assuming that means a lot to especially a guy like you, but also knowing that you were in the ring with, I mean, AJ Styles. I think his career speaks for itself. And then Okada, I believe you started training around 2004. I believe Okada started training at roughly the same time. So you guys pretty much in the business at roughly the same amount of time. And I guess these fans obviously realize that they appreciate it and they appreciate having to pay for the product. Whereas I guess you can't really say that about all promotions that are on pay-per-view right now.
Yeah, I mean, the acknowledgement of somebody enjoying what you're doing, or you know what, even when it comes to acknowledgement of somebody not enjoying what you're doing, it means that people's eyes are on the product. Obviously, I'd like everybody to love what I'm doing, but that just isn't how life works. But any time where somebody can say they enjoyed what I've done in the ring or admired what I've done in the ring, it means a lot to me, because I remember being really young, watching wrestling and being so impressed, and that really helped me, find my place in the world, and luckily my place in the world was as a professional wrestler. But just being able to watch people and all that was such a big thing for me. And I think that if I had anybody I can converse with, like if Twitter was around when I was just a wrestling fan, or I could email my favorite wrestler and get correspondence with them, man, like I think that would have pushed it to another level. So I think that really, it helps me want to get better for those people, and it also helps me want to reach out to them and just tell them that, hey, thank you very much for the support. Continue supporting, and if there's anything I can do, I'll gladly help. And I think that's big in wrestling now. I think that the aspects of fans being able to communicate with us and really tell us personally what they think or ask questions personally can be really, really good for pro wrestling and really good for wrestlers as being role models. But one thing I want to touch on too, I actually started training in 2001, and my first match was in 2002. So
well then, another failure of Wikipedia. This is the worst.
Yeah. I started really young. It was probably not the smartest thing, but I definitely started training in 2001. My first match was in 2002. So I started a little bit before Okada, but luckily I actually saw Okada when he was really young in the business. He spent a lot of time in Toronto. There was a group out there called UWA Hardcore, and they used Ultimo Dragon a lot. And Okada was actually trained by Ultimo Dragon, and he spent a lot of time in Ontario, so I got to see him quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I actually have a couple of those UWA DVD. I mean, because I like the covers. They were anime and they look really awesome. But anyway, that's enough of my fandom. Speaking of though, I mean, if obviously we're in the age of social media, fans can directly message you. They can talk to you on Twitter. And one of the things, when we're talking about the past, especially the New Japan events, you were on commentary for the world title, and I know, and I think obviously it received a little bit of criticism, not just from fans, but wrestling observers and other insiders as well. I guess what you feel about that when you heard that, because obviously where everything is going, and sometimes hey, we're fans, but we get very engrossed into the product, and obviously that's going to come out. Social media has made it a lot easier for us to voice those opinions. What were some of your thoughts about the criticisms?
The criticisms were justified. I know that it wasn't good commentary, but there's a lot of things factoring into it. So I'll just put it into perspective. Number one, I was not told that I was doing commentary until pretty much right before the matches. And then I was told, remember, you're driven towards the IWGP title in New York, and you're driven towards the Ring of Honor World title in Nashville. So don't be too vocal. Then I was also told, don't talk over Corino and Kevin Kelly, which is fine. But then when you're given a headset that you can't hear anything that Kevin Kelly or Steve Carino is saying, you don't know when your cue is to come in, and you don't know when you're going to be talking over them. So it's really hard to do that. And I'll be honest, it takes a lot of talent to do commentary, and unfortunately, that's not something I've ever worked on. I've worked on my promos, I've worked on my in-ring skills, and I know, people like to tell me all the time that my promos suck, but I think that if you really paid attention to what I've been saying lately, it makes a lot of sense, and they aren't so bad. I'm not saying I don't have room to improve, because in every aspect of wrestling, I have room to improve, and definitely after the commentary, that's definitely the biggest aspect I have to improve.
Yeah, hey, and that just shows that you're willing to grow and that you realize that growth is there. I think anyone in any walk of life, any industry, if you stop learning, you just become stagnant, and who wants that? So, and that's kind of interesting because that's one of the things that I think a lot of people have noticed about the Ring of Honor commentary, especially Carino and Kevin Kelly. They're one of the better teams out there right now. Steve Carino, of course, with his knowledge. But if you were just told that, I guess you were just gonna start the commentary and just give some of these key points, was that? I guess did that kind of shake you up a little bit? Just knowing like, hey, at the last minute you're gonna do commentary. Would it have been better if they had given you a little bit more heads up on that, or did you feel, hey, you know what, this is another path for me that I can grow and get some experience on?
I think I thought of it as both. It didn't shake me up, but I knew it wasn't going to be the greatest commentary in the world. I'm fine talking with people. I'm fine talking in front of a camera, but there's a lot of guidelines you have to follow on commentary that is a lot different than when you're, doing a promo or doing this as a podcast or talking to somebody face to face. It's just a lot different aspect. For instance, if you're in a conversation with someone, there's going to be times where I might talk over you a little bit or you might talk over me a little bit, because that's how the brain works. Sometimes your brain's working faster than you'd like it to, and you have something to say before the other person's finished talking, and you just happen to say it. In commentary, you can't do that, because then fans aren't going to hear anything. They're just going to hear a bunch of voices. So you have to follow a lot of guidelines that I wasn't ready for. Sure, it could have been just as bad if I had a week to prepare or a day to prepare. But I think I would have been a little bit better off if I knew what match I was doing commentary for, and more of the guidelines a little bit ahead of time, so I could have said, okay, this is what I got to do, this is what I got to get across. It was all kind of a spur of the moment for me, and that's definitely something that I have to work on, and I think that I'll definitely get more opportunities to work on it.
Yeah, there's an art form to it, just bringing in the fans, because obviously you've been a long-time Ring of Honor fan, and you've seen all the different commentary teams. Some were better than others. Some of the voices on there were better than others, and it is just an art just to be able to bring in the audience. So, hats off to you though for being able, just on the spur of the moment, doing what you did, because it's not easy at all. But speaking of social media and the fans still being able to contact you a little bit more through that, you've had a couple fans, and hey, I've always enjoyed our correspondence, the little bit that we've had on Twitter. You're very friendly with the fans online, and it seems like you're always willing to answer a question or answer a comment to something that you tweet. Recently there was a little bit of a scuffle between you and a fan online on Twitter. When it comes to that, has Twitter, do you think, has it made it, I guess, a little bit easier, obviously, for the passionate fan base to get a hold of the talents and to talk to you guys directly? But at the same time, there is that other side, which is, yeah, you kind of have, it's like a flood, right? It's just a flood of information. Everyone's tweeting at you. Has there been anything that kind of, I don't want to say caught you off guard, but you know what I mean? Where like a fan will tweet you something and you're like, huh, and you instantly want to respond to that, but then you kind of wonder, well, maybe I should have just let that tweet go.
Yeah, you should let them go, and I've let so many go, but sometimes my personality gets the best of me, and my personality is one of which enjoys a little bit of confrontation, enjoys a little bit of bickering back and forth, and if you really paid attention, I wasn't getting frustrated. The other person tweeting at me was getting very frustrated because they used quite obscene words towards me, which to me is amusing. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Maybe I should have, stood my ground and portrayed myself a little bit differently. But fortunately, we all have our personalities, and sometimes they come out when they shouldn't. I have two aspects of my personality. The one personality that everybody sees when I wrestle, because that's Michael Elgin as a human being. But there's also that little slight that knows I can't be aggressive with certain people, but I can really get them frustrated, and that's just what I'll tend to do. There's two aspects that I'm going to take, and if it's somebody that I obviously can't be aggressive with, because one, it's going to hurt me professionally or hurt me personally. So I like to bicker back and forth and just kind of get them off edge and let them lose their cool, because I don't lose my cool. It might look like I do, but I'm doing everything very strategically to make somebody else lose their cool, and that's just the nature of the beast. Maybe I should have just sat back and let it slide, but once in a while, the personal attacks are funny to the point where I feel like having fun with it. I'm a professional wrestler for a living, which means I work, Thursday through Sunday, and Monday to Thursday, I got 2 gym schedules. The rest of my day spent just hanging out. So sometimes you got to amuse yourself.
Well, especially in between training sessions, right? I mean, what else are you gonna do?
That's
But
right.
yeah, but I mean, hey, if you didn't have the personality you have, clearly you wouldn't have the number of fans that obviously appreciate your work. So you know what? There's always going to be someone, right? There's always one.
Yes. And as I said, I'm fine with it. I think that people who appreciate what I do are very valuable, but the people who hate what I do are just as valuable. Because one, now I know what I have to work on, and two, the wrestling doesn't exist without love and hate. So we need that. So I value everybody's opinion, and I don't care if it's telling me that you think I'm great or if it's telling me that you think I suck. They're very valid points, and one person could come up with 100 reasons for why I'm great, and another person can come up with 100 reasons why I suck. And both points are very valid, and arguments for both are, you could argue for days, I'm sure. But it is part of wrestling and part of life, and I'm okay with either one.
Well, an issue that I think I would say 99% of the fan base agreed upon was the shocking news of what happened at Road to Best in the World. Let's just get it out there, Michael. You you don't have the mullet anymore. You were attacked. I mean, heinously attacked by Michael Bennett, Adam Cole, the Ring of Honor champion, who you will be facing at Best in the World. It got a little personal. I don't. There are other people involved in this. I don't know if you want to bring that up or not, but man, Elgin, this is bad news, man. It kind of breaks my heart when I had to report that. Uh, I'm sure. I mean, you've probably heard from fans across the world about this because I know I saw the tweets. What has this done? Has this made it that much more personal? I mean, because in a way, your mullet was kind of your signature. The way some people have the beard. Daniel Bryan, they kind of signaturize it with him. Your mullet, that was you, man. So, what are we supposed to do with this?
He did make it quite personal. Not only do you remember me from my mullet, I had T-shirts that said "Fear the Mullet" on it, and that helped me make a living. And my wife Mischief was supposed to wrestle this Friday, but her knee is actually hurt, so she won't be performing this Friday, and that's partly because of a figure 4 that was put on her. And yes, bullshit or not, but she was supposed to be at AEW this weekend, and now she can't because her knee's bothering her. So you look into it how you want to look into it. So he definitely made this personal.
Definitely.
But
I mean, that was the aspect I didn't really want to know. I mean, yes, I think most fans that listen to us right now and listen to our website and podcast, they know you're married to Mischief, and obviously a post congratulations on that. But I mean, this is just that aspect, right? This is what happens at a Ring of Honor house show. Little things like this that some of the fans might miss out by not being there.
yeah, and as I was saying, he did make this personal, but that was his plan. He wants me to lose focus. He wants me to go in there and not keep my cool so he can walk out with that title. And that isn't how I see this Sunday ending. I see this Sunday ending with me as world champion for many, many reasons. One, I've worked way too hard and way too long for this. And two, I think that if you're a wrestler, if you're a writer, if you're a doctor, if you're a hockey player, a basketball player, a baseball player, whatever you do it to be the absolute best at it. And the man who holds the Ring of Honor World title, I think, is the best wrestler in the world. And that's what this Sunday is about. So I'm not going to lose my cool, and I'm not going to get my temper out. I'm not going to get disqualified or counted out or any of the stuff that he thinks I'm going to do, because at the end of the day, best in the world is about proving who is best in the world.
Before we move on, I mean, because obviously you're facing the Ring of Honor World Champion on Sunday, and there's this the Ring of Honor roster right now, to me, it's probably one of the best in the history of the company. But I got to ask this before we move on. Your friend, and let's say Ethan Gabriel Owens, I thought it was really awesome he got to be part of the main shows of Ring of Honor during the Road to Best in the World tour. And I know obviously you guys, you've been tag team champions with him in other promotions. You've worked with him and against him in other promotions as well. How did it feel for you for him to be able to get a chance there?
You know, it was a proud moment for me, because not only have I teamed with him and worked with him other places, I actually trained him, and he's gotten so good and really needs to on that next level. So it was just a proud moment to see him out there on a show I know he wants to be a part of, and I think that him and Josh Alexander, the tag team, could be very beneficial to Ring of Honor moving forward. And to be honest, I'm pushing for both of them as well as some others to be a part of the company moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know whether I was allowed to say his name on the podcast. I mean, because you never know who's looking, right? You never know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, going forward, obviously not to look past your opponent, but this Sunday, June 22nd in Nashville, Tennessee, you're facing the Ring of Honor World Champion Adam Cole. Obviously, you sound very confident going in, and I think it would be a kind of disrespectful to say that you don't, there's a huge possibility of you leaving with the Ring of Honor World title. And as I said, I don't want to look past Adam Cole, but the talents in Ring of Honor right now, I mean, guys like Ciampa and Lethal, it's so stacked right now, especially the world title division. We've never really seen a Ring of Honor like this where there were so many opponents that you could just say that this guy is more deserving than this. I mean, you really have to look at, and when it comes down to it, the win-loss records. And man, so many guys are there. Who are some of the talents you're looking forward to working as? Assuming you win the world title or not, who are some of the guys on the roster that you're really looking forward to?
I'm going to give you the cliche answer with everyone, but there's a reason for that. I loved watching Ring of Honor growing up, and there was a reason, because there were so many world title matches. There were so many different opponents. And that's what I think made the Ring of Honor world title prestigious. I mean, when Samoa Joe was world champion, everybody didn't only talk about the 24-month reign.
Yeah.
Or 20.
A little bit longer than that, yeah.
They talked about how many defenses he had. Then it was, how many defenses did Bryan Danielson have? How many defenses did Nigel McGuinness have? That used to mean something. And that's, if I'm Ring of Honor World Champion after this Sunday, that's what I want it to be. I want to defend that belt on every Ring of Honor show. I want to go to any show that Ring of Honor will see fit me to go to and defend the world title. And I'll even up the ante one more time. Anybody who's ever held the Ring of Honor world title that wants to come to Ring of Honor, if I'm Ring of Honor world champ, I will gladly defend the belt against you.
Those are some big words right there, Elgin, because man, that's actually a topic I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, not only are you headlining one of the biggest shows of the year, but we also have some talents returning to Ring of Honor, such as Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. And these are guys who, they built Ring of Honor. I mean, I'm sure, you're going to see them in the locker room, and you're not going to be like me, you're not going to become a giddy little schoolboy again, but these are guys that built the foundation of what Ring of Honor was based on, and they seem to be they're going to be there for the long haul. I mean, looking down the line, you might face Christopher Daniels, you might face Frankie Kazarian, you might face guys, like Chris Sabin or Alex Shelley or other guys that are recently returned to the independent scene. That's kind of exciting, I think, especially in the future of Ring of Honor.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. As I said, there was a legacy of the Ring of Honor World Title that meant so much. I mean, it still means a lot, but I think that it was just counted different ways before, if that makes sense. As I said,
Yeah, definitely.
you know, what fans paid attention to was not only the length of the reign, it was who and how many times that belt was defended. That's what matters. And if I do something, I got to do it to the best of my ability. And, this is ego speaking. I got to do it better than anybody else has ever done it. So my goal is, if the longest title reign is 22 months, then I want to have a 23-month reign. If the most defenses is 50 defenses, then I want to have 51 defenses. That's what I want to do. I want to make it. I want to make fans think of the Ring of Honor World Title. They think of Michael Elgin. Those are the things that they need to think of. Those two things need to go hand in hand for me to be happy, and that's why this Sunday means so much to me. I mean, I could walk out not Ring of Honor World Champion, but in my mind, that's just not an option. I just think that it's my time now. I think that I've missed that opportunity 4 times, and this one's going to be the right time, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to try my best to represent Ring of Honor at the level I feel it needs to be represented at.
Well, it all goes down on Sunday, June 22nd. It is live on pay-per-view, folks. Ring of Honor Best in the World 2014 takes place at the Tennessee State Fairgrounds/Expo in Nashville. 8 p.m. Eastern is the bell time, and I just think this is going to be the biggest event of the year, especially for Ring of Honor fans. And really, I don't think this is probably going to sound hyperbolic, but hell, order this pay-per-view, because if you want to make this a success, you want Ring of Honor to be successful in this, you got to support it, and I think that's the best way to put that. Michael, we really appreciate the time you spent with us. This is generally something that we always do with our guests. I know that you have your own training seminars that you're doing. I think you started them recently, just this year. Tell some of our listeners who may be up-and-coming wrestlers or wrestlers that, just want to add a little bit more to their repertoire. Let our listeners know everything about them and, of course, your social media, how people can contact you, and everything else.
Yeah, my wrestling school is here in St. Louis. My first class started January 20th. And, the 2 students that progressed the fastest and who have stuck with it have already worked for AIW, IWA Mid-South, AAW, and did a dark match for Ring of Honor. So, of course I'm going to be biased and say come train with me, but I think that just seeing my students, 5 months into training, performing for companies like that speaks volumes. And I think they've done really good, and I think it's a school that people should definitely check out. And I have a camp coming up July 21st to 25th. People who are trained are welcome to come and kind of hone their craft, as well as any packages I receive are going to go straight to Ring of Honor. I believe they're going to be putting up an article about it this week. And also that's for, new trainees, the people that want to, see if they can make it as a wrestler. If you do the week camp, you receive some money off your tuition, and the next camp starts September 8th, which is a 6-month course. And if you want to talk to me about wrestling or bring up the school, you can hit me up on Twitter at ROH Michael Elgin, or you can email me at elginbookings.com, elginbookings@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Michael, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Check out Ring of Honor this Sunday on pay-per-view.